Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? It's the winter season, so let's keep your audio systems hot, where we talk about the Alpha Strike Boxset, surprise stand-in for one of the co-hosts.
Oh, yeah.
So what's going on, co-host Denham? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been a good week.
Dustin is currently stuck in customs, apparently trying to take contraband on a drop ship to the jump ship. That's a no-no, apparently. So he's out again.
He's being detained with little air quotes.
Is it air quotes if it's in space?
Space quotes.
There you go. Vacuum quotes? Vacuum quotes. Oh, man. Let's just get this going because we actually do have some end-of-the-year hobby news, some hobby progress, games played, and the regular coolant flush to keep everybody going. So let's start out with some news. We've got Rec Guide 28 out.
It has some things in it, for sure.
Oh, it definitely has things. What?
Yeah.
When I say things, what do you think about in this Rec Guide?
Well, it's got like new battle armor in it, which we don't see very often. It has new Inner Sphere battle armor.
I mean, is the Frank Regis Inner Sphere?
It's not clan.
It's not clan, but it's periphery.
Okay,
but
peripheral. Yeah,
ooh,
that's
you're
true.
right. Periphery is not Inner Sphere.
Yeah.
Technicality win.
Yeah, you are technically correct.
Best kind of correct. Yeah, the 10-star battle armor for the Frank Regis. I like the aesthetic.
Yeah, well, it looks fine. I mean, the whole 10 stars because it's supposed to be like the sheriffs and the frontier type police force were the ones who were using it in the periphery.
What are those mechs that they were using that are like Thunderbolts but not Thunderbolts that they use as like the cop mech around there? Marshals, the Marshal mech.
That would make sense.
It's too close. That's why your brain can't figure it out. But yeah, they use like a modified, cheaper Thunderbolt to like patrol. So Is that supposed to kind of go with them?
It aesthetically, I would say 100% because that's what it looks like. I always love new battle armor type things. I just don't like this one.
Is it the David Goss rifle?
It's the weapons. It is the weapons.
You don't like the David Light Goss and the support PPC?
Correct. I would rather it have two of one. I don't mind if it's either one, but I don't like having two different damage and range brackets for weapons on battle armor. I mean, for ease of play, I want it to be all the same. It's not efficient enough
for you.
Exactly. Well, the support PPC is 2 damage. The Gauss is 1 damage. The PPC is 257, and the Gauss is 358. So if you're firing a squad of 4, you've got to look at both the damages. You've got to look at both the ranges, and then you have to. So you have to. It's just a lot of extra thinking about it instead of just rolling a bunch of dice and saying, do I hit? And this is how much damage I do.
That's why you use the second version, the mag shot Gauss rifle and the support PPC, which are both 2 damage.
2 damage, also different range brackets.
brackets.
We got 369 and 257. So you're still...
You can just tell all the people, all the newer players who are like, I want to run 10-star battle armor. And you're like, no, you don't roll fast enough.
Yeah, that's what happens. So I say pick a weapon, put 2 of those on, and make 4 different variants so you can have all the weapons. I don't care, but but I just don't like the mixed weapons on battle armor like that. I just don't.
I mean, you could argue that regular elementals have mixed range and damage loadouts.
If they had an ER small laser and a micro pulse laser, one on each arm, it would bother me just as much. But having SRMs and a small laser, that doesn't bother me at all.
I don't see your logic, but
I don't care.
Just move on. But I guess this is like more of a Front exclusive battle armor anyways.
Yes. And yeah, like you said, there's 2 different versions. There's the cheap version, and then there's the special version, of which there's only a few of. So if you read the history of it, which is also in the rec guide, it's actually pretty interesting. more than what I want to go over right now. But I say pick it up and read it, and you'll be like, huh, that's weird.
All right, what else we got in there? We got the Whirlwind Baby Hovercraft.
The Scout. They call it a Scout hover tank.
He's just a little guy.
Several variants. One that carries infantry. One that's for anti-air.
Light AC2s.
Yep, light AC2s and ultra AC2s.
Where's Dustin?
Yeah, I can hear him. I mean, I can hear him in the other room screaming about it because he hears us.
Okay, so the big thing about light AC2s is you can use alternate ammunition. What ammunition are you putting on your hovercraft? You got 1 ton of light AC ammo.
I mean, that's all you need because that's.
Are you taking armor piercing? Are you taking precision? Caseless?
God, caseless? No, not caseless. Because who needs 90 shots for that thing?
Dustin screaming, me,
yeah,
pick me.
I think for this guy, it can chase down those light ones. So I would say precision. Or you're right, like it's light enough to avoid the being hit by heavies and assaults. So if you use armor piercing, you can just drive around the big guys and just get crits all day long.
Crits all day long on 12s, right?
Yeah, it is up there, but yeah, because it's the AC2, so it's on 12s.
Don't do that.
It does carry 4 tons of infantry.
I mean, that's a squad of battle armor.
Drop your tin stars back there.
Oh yeah.
So precision ammo would be the best.
Yeah, because it's also got the 2 ER medium lasers. So
yep,
you're going to be fighting at range. You still want to stay alive as a hovercraft.
It's got okay armor, but it's like 20 per side.
That's pretty good for a hovercraft, though.
It's not bad.
Okay, talk to me about the next thing. Why are they including the long tom artillery into the rec guides?
Oh, well, yeah, that's an interesting story. Very few things about BattleTech ever change, but the existing record sheets for the long tom are invalid under the current rule set. There have been changes that have been made that make it invalid. They did include those stats on the BattleTech website, the bg.battletech.com.
Mm-hmm.
So you've always been able to download those ever since those changes happened. But now they're putting them into the rec guide to make sure that everybody sees them so that you don't just have to find them on the download site on that webpage.
Okay. So this is like, I don't want to say, are they reselling us sheets?
I wouldn't say they're reselling them because you could still go download them if you want. But now they're official, in an official book, whereas before they were not.
Okay.
So if you're buying the rec guides, you're buying the convenience to have them all in one nice little place. But yeah, anybody can just go to the website and download them for free right now.
Then we've got how did I know this was a Steiner vehicle as soon as I saw it?
I'll tell you. What's its name?
Sturmfuhrer.
Yes, Steiner.
It's a heavy LRM carrier.
It's 85 tons. Not as many LRMs as an LRM carrier, but still a lot. But it gives you that Artemis, so that that adds up. Also,
those clan LRM 20s.
Oh yeah. They could have crammed a lot more on there.
I mean, for a 696, for a 4.6 that does 2 LRM 20s, the battle value is good if you just need missiles.
Yeah, and it's definitely got the armor. 69 on the front. It's there to party.
But yeah, this was like a weird rec guide, I thought, because it was like, okay, we got no new mechs. This is all vehicles. We even have battle armor instead.
No new mechs, but it does have new variants of like 4 older mechs.
Yeah, we've got the Firestarter, the Spectre, Cicada, and the Devastator. And all their art, of course, looks good.
Yep. All new art. All looks great. Devastator does a charge for 70 points of damage because it has both mask and a supercharger.
Thanks.
And it's 100 tons. Yeah, that's the one that you put like the 5 gunnery and the 2 piloting guy in there and just have them run around and charge people. Yep, I like it a lot.
I should say that there's actually an Aero 4 version of the Sturmfuhrer, so they were like, what missile do you like? Because we have a version of it with it.
Oh, the Aero 4 one has 5 Thunderbolts in there as well, which is great.
I mean, if you're putting in big missile, why don't you put
That's
in
right.
second big missile?
That's right. It's just so many big missiles.
All right, what's next? I add this in because it made me angry so many times, which is CGL, you piece of crap store. I don't want to type holiday 2022 every time I go to you.
Yeah, get a cookie. I mean, save that. Like, I typed it in once. That should be enough. Do not remind me for the next 30 days.
There were 12 takes of this, and I screamed for every single one. But yeah, in another store news, we have the Steel Warriors Studios sale going on right now. And that
it's on sale?
Yeah, so right now, all the Steel Warrior Studio STLs are 50% off. And that's because Steel Warrior Studios specifically is going out of business.
That was some rough stuff. Apparently, that's because of not reading the fine print, making a couple of bad decisions, and also having a lot of just plain bad luck. So it does happen, which is sad.
Yeah, I almost want to say it's a suffering from success kind of story.
Oh, yeah, it definitely grew way faster than expected, and I agree. I think the I was going to say the people, it's just a person, and that's another problem. Is it the one person who was in charge of Steel Warrior made some bad decisions because he was just trying to grow the business as fast as it needed to be. It pays to hire a good lawyer.
But I wish them the best. But currently, Thunderhead will be taking over and selling their products. So none of the STLs, as far as I'm aware, will be like being deleted or going out of existence.
That is correct. However, Thunderhead, who sells a great many things under the Steel Warrior name, during all of this, especially the sale, Thunderhead has decided that during this time, during the 50% off sale, he is going to ignore any money owed to him under consignment and just make sure that Steel Warriors gets all of the profits from his product. Which may actually slow down him transitioning his STL rights to his store that he is currently in the process of developing. But he assures us that they will all be moved over eventually. It will just take longer than originally anticipated. He has a lot of things in the works too, but he is taking it a bit slower and making sure that he doesn't make the same sorts of mistakes. So we will be able to get a hold of all of the STLs, and the 3D prints are going to be sold again, just under a different name. We won't lose anything. It's just going to take a bit of time for the dust to settle.
That's good.
And I say kudos to Thunderhead for doing that too. I think that is super nice, and that's not something he had to do.
What else do we have? We've got Mega Mech 49.11.
Nice.
But why is this one nice? Well, this is the long-awaited Alpha Strike edition of Mega Mech.
Okay, this is not Mega Strike. This is not you cannot play Alpha Strike on this. When they do, they have told us that it is going to be named Mega Strike. This is not that, but it is the next best thing.
You can sort by Alpha Strike stats on Mega Mech. You can print/export your custom mechs and make the cards with them automatically using the most up-to-date rules for units.
It is amazing too. At any of the units that are in there, you can bring them up, look at the Alpha Strike card, and then if you want to, see the calculations that they use to convert it. So there's no question, why is this 49 points? Well, here's the answer. Here's all the entire breakdown of the mech, turning it into an Alpha Strike card.
Well, you see, the short damage gets added. Then you have to take the medium damage, add that twice, and then the long damage. Then you got to add the defensive battle value of that, and then convert it to an Alpha Strike points. Yeah, nobody wants to do that. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, but now, I mean, you can design your own mech, and then Mega Mech will convert it to Alpha Strike for you, which is super nice.
That's the good part, but the sleeper part is being able to sort. So this makes tournaments and just regular play so much better when it's like, I want a 4 damage short, 4 damage medium, and 1 damage long. I want a specific thing. I want it to be this point level, and I want it to do these multiple things, and I can search that, and it gives me all the options that fit that criteria.
And I mean, they've already been doing some master unit list integration, and this makes it just better. I'm excited to see where they go from here. And that's convenient because the Alpha Strike box set is now in retail.
It's a great timing.
It is.
Yeah, so it's hitting stores. Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you enjoy your Alpha Strike box sets, which we'll talk about later. Any other news, or does that pretty much wrap it up for the end of 2022?
I was going to say it's been a slow news thing, but we actually did talk about quite a few news things. So there was quite a bit, but I think
news is important. All right, here's the hard question. Denham, have you gotten any hobby progress done since the last episode?
I punched everything out in my Alpha Strike box set. I bought Alpha Strike box set. That kept you. We know that purchasing counts as hobby progress.
Buying is hobby progress technically.
Yep, I glued my tripod super heavy together and primed it, but have not finished any painting. No,
I'm gonna be real. I haven't done anything.
It's okay. You deserve a break. You did a lot.
That's not true. That's not true. Never mind. I tried out a airbrush primer, like primer that goes through the airbrush instead of rattle can. I liked that. It was
nice.
I felt like it had much nicer coverage than the rattle can because the rattle can's applying it so fast and I don't want to overspray it. But with an airbrush, I have much finer control. So I could I've already hit this one spot. Well, I can just depress and hit to the next spots. I can go 360 around and it's drying as it's going.
I need to use my airbrush more. That's what I need. A good airbrush primer. I'm all about trying that out.
It's a cheat code for getting stuff done to them. How are you not using it more?
We'll get into that, but I think the short answer is the compressor. That's what I'm going to say.
When we get to that, I'm a still say that you got no excuses. but I also aliquoted out my Snow Raven starter binary, whatever I want to call the grouping of mechs and battle armor, and I threw some primer on those, and then I threw a base coat on a few of them. I'm still on the picking out a test base coat, which is hard. Because I thought I picked one out I like, but it was too light. It was a lighter, bluish gray.
Need more battle armor.
Yeah, I know I need more battle armor. I need other things too. So, so I'm still picking out a base color for that. I went with a too light of a base color, I think, and I actually hit it with a wash through the airbrush, which kind of toned it back down. And I don't know if I like that or not. And I'm in the holding pattern. Do I like it? Do I try to get a darker color and then just use what I have as the layer, the next highlight? I don't know. It's tough. It's tough wanting to paint dark blue gray. Because I did the color matching and it was oh, this is what you've been painting all year. And I was no, visually steel blue gray / teal does not look like all of the sea foxes I painted this year.
Right. I mean, you put them next to each other and they definitely look different. But if you're the one painting them, you're just this looks so familiar. This feels familiar.
I also wouldn't like it because then I'd be wow, I'm literally painting the exact same thing.
Right. With the Alpha Strike box, I asked my kids what color I should paint them, and they said purple. So I guess I'm doing these guys Merrick. So it's either going to be Merrick and Jade Falcon or Merrick and Wolf. So it's going to be very different color palette than I'm used to painting.
So different. That's pretty much it for hobby progress. I got some new stuff to help me do more hobby progress in the new year, but I feel like I'll talk about that when I use it. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Have you gotten any games played?
I have. I mean, I've gotten my normal Tuesday night games in, which are always fun.
You mean your day after Christmas game?
The day after Christmas, yeah.
That's right. Some of us... You mean,
Christmas
Boxing Day. Your day after Boxing Day is what I meant.
That is correct. I was still at the store on that Tuesday. I still played. It was still fun.
How did that game go?
I did a demo for Alpha Strike using just the stuff from the box set.
Ooh.
And it went really, really well. I'd say 2 thumbs up.
I mean, I don't have any games, so we can just go right into that now. How did that demoing with the box set go?
Okay, so I got the box set a little while ago for Alpha Strike. And I didn't want to do an opening type of review because so many people are doing that. You could just go online and see pictures. I wanted to get in there. I wanted to pull the stuff out of the box and actually use it before I gave my thoughts and feelings on this box set.
Because that's we actually used this and we're going to give it did it pass the muster? Not just
I used every single thing in this box.
Oh, yes.
First of all, first impressions, I like the mechs that are in there a lot. You've got the two new mechs, which are the Pouncer and the Wraith. Most of the mechs have different pose or different weapons. Like the Locust has small lasers instead of machine guns on it. The Archer has lasers mounted underneath his arms. Another Blackjack.
Everybody needs Blackjack, said nobody ever.
There were 3 mechs that were just right out of other sets, though. The Phoenix Hawk, the Warhammer, and that Timberwolf, they're exactly the same as the ones you've already got. But only 3 out of 13 mechs, only 3 of them were repeats.
I mean, I could see someone just taking that Phoenix Hawk and cutting the boosters off, calling it the Karita variant, Mad Cat, I don't know, cut the missile pods in half. Boom. Now you got SRMs and easy peasy.
Or you can make a star of Timberwolves. Who knows? Something like 2200 BV for that. It's crazy. We only use the quick start rules that came with it. So even though I've got the Commander's Edition, I didn't want to touch that. I wanted to see how the game played just looking up rules in the book. The rules were easy enough to look up. It was a little bit, the layout was a little bit different than the Commander's Edition for Alpha Strike, but not too bad.
Okay. What are the big differences between the quick start rules and regular Alpha Strike play?
It is just battle mechs. There's no aerospace. There's no combined arms. There's no battle armor rules. It is basically just giving you, here's how you put mechs on here. Here's how you use objectives. Here's how you set up terrain. Here are a series of starter missions to go through, going from just your standard stand-up fight to all kinds of different objectives and goals. So I think it does a good job of walking you through how Alpha Strike should be played, because it really doesn't shine when you're just doing mech on mech battles. You need to have objectives. You need to have goals. It really helps out a lot. The thing about the quick start rules, though, are these are not the ones from the beta version that I had seen before. When the latest errata came out for the Commander's Edition, they did update this one, so it has those current changes in it already.
So it has like the heat being removed.
That's what I noticed when I was looking in there. Exactly, there's a thing about heat in there.
Like rip the box off, and it's like there's one serial offender that I need to make sure died.
Well, one of the mechs, the Pouncer has it has heat attacks. It's got flamers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I went straight to the heat section, and sure enough, step 5 after the remove all heat levels and restart the mech. If the mech begin and phase, in shutdown, after all the heat thing, it says step 5, add any external sources of heat, which only came out in the latest errata. So it is already in there. You don't have to download any errata for it. It is current as of right now.
That's excellent, because I hate nothing more than a box set or a rule set come out and it's already invalid and needing a day 1 patch.
Yep. And the fact that it is that they did that makes me happy.
That just kind of shows that a little bit more love and care went into this.
Yeah, that's one of those things that it is worth releasing it a week or two after it, they could have, just to make sure it has all that. It also comes with the Alpha Strike version of the Battlefield Support deck, which has the Heavy Strike in it. You can't use it for your other one because it's Alpha Strike damage levels, not classic damage levels.
You do 1 damage in groups of 1.
Yeah. But it is there, and I think including that is almost as cool as in the Clan Invasion box of them having 2 points of elementals, which I still think is one of the best decisions they could make. But yeah, the Battlefield Support, having that in there instead of a separate product, I think that's great. I think that means that more people will start to use those, which I think is super good.
They're really trying to push that hard. I don't want to say like aggressively, but like, hey, this is a new thing that we are trying to make more mainstream.
And as someone who's used them, I'm 100% in. I agree with that 100%. I think everybody should try it out, see what they think. I think it adds a lot of flavor to the games, Classic and Alpha Strike. I just think it's a good mechanic, and it's fun.
Talk to me more about those objectives. Like, how are they representing objectives in the Alpha Strike box?
They actually have sheets of tokens and counters. They have the ground movement, the jumping movement, the stand still, the immobile, and then they also have 3 objective, like objective A, B, and C of 2 different colors. So they have 6 objective markers, little 2-inch tokens, and then they also have an artillery template.
You gotta have an artillery template. You gotta have your pie plate.
Yeah, if you include the battlefield support cards for a game like Alpha Strike, you should also include all the tokens you would need to use it.
But is it the 6-inch one for bombs?
No, it's a little. It's the little 2-inch one that has a scatter diagram on it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it is the 2-inch AOE template for standard artillery.
Standard artillery. I see how it is.
The mechs included, though. I mean, you've got a mix of super fast, like the Dasher goes 30 inches unless it sprints, in which it goes 45 inches. But you've got fast ones on both sides, but you also have heavy ones for both sides as well. So whatever your style or whatever your objective, you'll be able to build a force that uses mobility or firepower to achieve your goals. I do like the selection of mechs that they gave you.
Nice. Let's talk about the missions.
As you're going through the rule book, it will say, play this mission first. If you've never played one, like play this scenario first. It's a meet and greet, super, super simple, not a whole lot of terrain. It just goes over the basics to get 2 people familiar with the rules. So you should play, if you've never played before, find a friend, play that, and then never touch it again, because everything else you do will be will outstrip that, but it gives you a good idea of how it works. Like Alpha Strike is designed to put a lot of mechs on the table, and in the meet and greet, the clan side has 2 mechs, and the Sphere side has 4.
Please tell me they're not telling you to. All right, let's use all the models in the box set.
Right. So it's a total of 6, but Sphere has 4, clan has 2, which is way too little for a good game of Alpha Strike. But it it's enough to teach you the rules. And then in the rulebook, it goes on to talk about buildings and battlefield support. And then it has a mission that says, play this scenario second. And it adds a little bit more. And then it starts talking about force building and your pilots, formations. And then it talks about how to set up objectives for your game, whatever games you want to play next. So it tells you how to determine objectives. And it goes through a couple like objective raid, control the field, destroy the enemy, hold the fort, break through, find the target. If you've played in tournaments like Nova or Southern Assault, you will, reading through these, you will say, oh yeah, I recognize that type of scenario. So the rules may not be exact, but the template is there. It's got the structure of basically your tournament objective games.
That's good. I just want to know. So is it like, how are they controlling objectives? That's my main thing.
Well, if it's like scanning ones, you have to be within 6 inches to scan. They have to be within 6 inches, or they have to be touching the token, base-to-base contact with their token. But the tokens are 2 inches in diameter. Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't like they were standardizing that all interactions with objectives are X far away. Like,
yeah, for these, because they've got the nice big tokens, you just have to be base-to-base contact. But the tokens are like kind of a plus sign. So going base to base is like they've cut the corners off, so it's more of a circle without being a circle.
Is it an octagon?
The rough shape is an octagon, but here I'll show it to the camera.
How many sides are on these objectives?
So it's kind of got curves.
Why would they add curves? This is BattleTech. There are no curves in BattleTech.
Looks pretty.
Like, that's fine, but why are there curves on them?
I would have to measure and see if it actually like affects. I don't know. They look pretty.
I'm just a little surprised that they're that big rather than be literally hex sized.
Yeah, like they could have done hex sized.
That is my main confusion looking at this box set. There was a distinct choice to not use base measurement size for everything else in BattleTech, which is the 1.25 inch hex.
Yeah, you could definitely get multiple mechs partially on these objective tokens.
Okay,
if you needed to. So for contesting reasons, you could actually have, if you wanted to, the more mechs that are, whoever has the most mechs on the objective or touching the objective gets the point for that.
The morest mechs.
They could do a good job of talking about the different mechs and talking about the roles that the different mechs will have. So a new player will be able to be like, oh, well, this is, this type of mech is great for running around and harassing. And this kind of mech is a brawler, and this is what a brawler means. So
Dasher. It's a battle armor taxi. Mental note: battle armor not included.
I was going to say asterisk, battle armor not included. Yeah, that Dasher goes so fast, and I was just telling my opponent, you're lucky. You're lucky that this box doesn't have elementals, because this is how you would use that. It also comes with a bunch of terrain. It's got a bunch of different sized buildings and a bunch of trees. And in the book, it tells you multiple ways of using the trees to create forest areas. I hate their first one, but the second and third one are really, really great. So the first one is that is a tree. You cannot stop on the tree. 2 inches around the tree for line of sight purposes counts as shooting through woods, but there's no standing in woods because it's just a tree. I like it better because it comes with 10 trees, and it says, if you set them up in a triangle or a square, that designates a forest zone. So anything in that area, you are in the woods, which is more how we would do it.
I like
more
that,
how we have done.
Because I was wondering how they were going to use, you can't block off a 1 foot by 1 foot area, what a classic wood would be. But telling them to hey, put them in draw the corners, trigonometry it.
And the other one was, get some green construction paper or felt and just, use those as the forest and put a couple trees on there to show that it's trees.
Oh my God, that's how I do it at my house.
Yeah. But in the game we played, we set up 2 triangles and 1 square of woods that were, 4 to 5 inches on each side, just to have some good zones. And that worked out super well.
That's good. That's one of my biggest complaints about playing Alpha Strike is because most people play wood so small. I'm talking maybe a 2 inch by 2 inch block of woods.
That's too tiny.
It's too tiny, or it's a small strip and it's very thin because, it blocks it so much so X-Wing style. And I'm no, because your Dasher can go around it and it's only lost 1 or 2 inches. He needs to lose he needs to choose between going through and losing 10 inches of his movement or going around and not being where he wants to be.
Yeah. So the way they suggest with making zones by cornering it, it's great because you don't have a lot of trees in the way, but there's no question about who's in the woods and who's not. It was very easy to tell in our game.
That's good.
Yep. Super, super good. It also comes with a bunch of cardboard buildings. Don't take long at all to put together or break down. And it's a lot. It's not just a couple. It's 15 different buildings, 9 small and 6 large. So the small ones can be as little as, they're little level 1 that are an inch on each side, or some of the bigger ones are level 5 and then they're 4 or 5 inches.
They're just a little building.
Yeah. The big problem I have with them is that once you've set them up and then you break them back down and put them in the box, they're a lot puffier. So they don't lay as flat. So for a while, you got to put another book on the lid to make the lid squish down. The trees are a heavy cardboard stock, kind of like what we call the paper doll mechs that come in the
cutouts.
The box sets. It's that type of cardboard. So you have to be careful not to break the legs of the trees. 2 trees go together to make kind of a stabilized tree that stays standing. But I can see that if you're not careful and you break it, it could become a lot less stable pretty fast. But that's my only complaint with any of the terrain at all. The buildings are all fine, solid enough to put mechs on easily and not have any problems with it. And the trees look good, but putting them together and taking them apart, if you're not careful, you might break one. Yeah. I mean, you could glue it or tape it back, but it's just something to be aware of.
Once you ruin it, it's ruined, though.
Yeah.
So be gentle.
This box set is here for all my demo games, so it is the one that I will be really using a lot, and I'm going to see, in public play, how long do these things last. So, give me a few weeks or months, and I'll tell you how it held up later.
We're definitely the podcast that prefers to run something through all of its paces and then give our opinion.
Yes, and from what I've seen, this box is definitely worth the entry price. MSRP is $80, but a lot of places have been selling it for $70. Maybe just be Christmas sales or whatever. But even at $80, 100% worth the price. 100%, in my opinion.
No, I mean, that's good. I like that they decided to put out a kind of discrete 2-player box set where, if you want to, you could split it with someone. And,
yeah.
I mean, for $40, you can have, 2 lances or a star, and then of course the guy with a star gets more terrain. So it's easily split between 2 players if you really want it.
And even if like you don't play Alpha Strike, it's still, the mechs are good because it's like $6 a mech, just over $6 a mech. So even if you just got it, you throw everything away except for the mechs, it's not horrible.
How do we feel about the competitive nature of this box set? Like, if this was, because I've seen a lot of people go to tournaments and literally the only mechs they have are a Game of Armor Combat box set or Clan Invasion box set.
I think these mechs would be a great addition to those mechs. I mean, you've got big ones like the Atlas and the Masakari, but you also have the workhorses like the Wraith. The Wraith is a fantastic Alpha Strike mech. It's a fantastic one. It's fast. It's got decent weapons. It can definitely grab those objectives. And then they throw a couple more in there to really show you how speed works. Now, the Locust is in the Game of Armored Combat, so they would have 2 of those, of course. I think it's a good selection of mechs. I would love to see more people using those instead of just the Game of Armored Combat.
Now, I'm pretty sure one of our listeners, Cryo, added up all the points, and it's like just over 250 for each faction's set.
Sort of true, sort of not true. The Inner Sphere, if you add up the 8 mechs on there, is significantly higher than the clan forces until you give the clan forces, average them out at skill 3 and the Inner Sphere at skill 4. And then it comes a lot closer to even. But I think it's closer to like 280 points if you add everything up.
Really? I could have swore that each variant, like he did the variant in the box set.
Well, there's 2 variants for each.
Okay.
Oh, you mean like that specific model as that variant? Yeah. I didn't do that. I just picked the highest point number on either side of the card.
Okay,
and added them up.
No, I like that.
Yeah, but you have to give the clan forces a lower skill to equal, to get them closer to the point value of the Inner Sphere.
Are the cards in it giving clan skill 3 and Inner Sphere skill 4?
The cards don't have, like, it's got a blank spot for the skill, because all of the scenarios that are in the book, they will say, okay, this mech gets this skill, this mech gets this skill. So the scenarios in there are already balanced for skill, but it does tell you how to do your own skill modifications, as part of the teaching you how to play Alpha Strike. So it says, for every skill level you go up, it's going to be this many more points to your card.
Okay.
So I do like that. I like that they don't just say this mech is skill level 4. It doesn't say anything.
So, but not every mission is like all the clan mechs versus all the Inner Sphere mechs.
Oh, correct. They either say you are going to use these forces for this particular match, or it says pick 250 skill points worth of units from your forces.
Okay.
So yeah, it doesn't for this box set, it doesn't go over 250. I think if it were to do that, it would just basically be you picking all of the mechs every single time, no matter what. Whereas 250 will give you a little bit of wiggle room to pick a few certain mechs and change the skill levels if you wanted to.
That's good, because I always think like if you're playing below like a 200, 250 point value, like there's not enough.
It's too fast.
It's too fast.
Right? If you don't have enough mechs in Alpha Strike, they die so quickly. The momentum would be overwhelming too fast.
Yeah. Like, oh, I just learned what this mech does, and it's dead.
Yep.
and the game.
Dead. Especially if you're playing with the straight rules where you roll 1 die and you do that much damage. So a Timberwolf would do like 6 or 7 damage on a hit, and on a miss it does nothing. It would just delete a mech every turn. That would make a small number of units. It would just be crazy. It would be like, okay, 15 minutes, this game's over. We already know it's over. You blew up 3 of my guys. I only had 4. So what's the point? Yeah, Alpha Strike needs larger numbers. It just does.
Yeah. And this is the good part. What about the reference sheet?
Oh yeah, the reference sheet. It is definitely a quick start rules type reference sheet.
Okay, so this isn't one like I could use for everything like the classic one.
No, it's front and back, but the tables are pretty big because it's only the stuff that you would need for mech on mech action.
Okay.
It's got your movement cost, your range table, the crit stuff, the attack modifiers, It talks about the buildings in case you want to play with destructible buildings. It does have stuff for that. And it has the battlefield support table on it. It also has a cheat sheet of the most common special abilities that are in this box set. Like what is case? What is case 2? What does ENE mean? It's got all that stuff on the reference card.
So this box set is entirely designed to use regular multiple attack rules or single attack rules.
It has the single attack rules as the main rules, but it has the optional rules in there for the multiple attack rules. Yes. Because that is the official stance of Alpha Strike.
Can it be the official wrong stance?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who really like Alpha Strike say that it should not be played with the multiple attack rules because that's what's making the games take longer. People who like that tend to be the classic, the people who play classic and don't mind it taking longer. But if you want to do a company on company and under 2 hours, you play with one attack for all damage, a single attack.
I mean, I could understand that, but I feel like at that points level, at the 200 to 300 level, I think you're fine using multiple attack rolls.
I agree with that.
I wanted to make sure they included that, and I wanted to know how they presented that.
Yeah, they present it under the combat phase in an optional block on page 21 on how to do multiple attack rolls. The problem that I have with the official stance on multiple attack rolls, though, is that like when we were at Nova, you picked your critical dice.
Mm-hmm.
And if those dice rolled 12s, then you got a critical hit. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what other dice rolled 12, that's just a hit.
Yeah.
Their official rules is if any of the pairs roll a 12, then it's a critical hit, but you can only get one per attack.
Yeah.
Like per attack phase. So if you rolled like 4 6s, so you got like several groups of 12, you only did one critical hit, not multiple ones. But that means a mech that does 7 attack has 7 times more likely to get a crit than a mech that only has 1 attack. And that doesn't seem right to me. It's I don't mathematically, I don't like that.
And I think that's why regionally, like the Virginia, Carolina / little even more west and than that, prefer to use the single dice roll because they're like, yeah, we understand that we don't like single attack rolls. We like multiple attack rolls, but we also don't want to just do buckets of crits.
Right, because then it would be a priority to get mechs that do large amounts of damage just to make them crit boats. But that's fine. Like that's I think at this level it's not something that would affect the game because it's only 250 points. It's not going to affect the game that dramatically at this level.
Okay.
So that's something that people can say, "Oh, I know how to play this game, but when I go to a tournament, here are the official tournament rules that I need to make myself aware of." Because even how they did it at Nova compared to Southern Assault was different, so it didn't matter. You still have to go find out what your tournament venue's rules are, no matter what. At least you have an idea of what it's based on.
That's good.
It also came with a novella, just like all the other box sets.
I keep mine in my car for when I'm lonely.
That's right. So officially, this box set is the Jade Falcons versus the Northwind Highlanders. If you want to get started with a paint scheme, that's the one that it tells you to use in the inbox fiction. But obviously, paint them whatever you want. Yeah, I'll be doing Merrick as the Inner Sphere forces, and either Jade Falcon or Wolf, whichever I decide to do.
I'm sorry. Can't have 2 Merrick players here on the podcast. That's just too much.
No, I'm not a Merrick player, but I will have a Merrick force to put on the field.
Yeah, that's still too much.
Ha!
So overall, if we were to rate this box set compared to a game of Armored Combat and Clan Invasion,
for an Alpha Strike box set, it covers every single base. It covers all the bases. It's not horribly expensive, especially for everything that you get. Like my only complaints at all are maybe the trees will get broken faster than the rest of the terrain. And yeah, 3 of the mechs are duplicates, which you can't really do too much about that. But out of 13 mechs, only 3, that's not too bad.
Every faction uses Timberwolves. I don't know why, but they do.
I did want it to be an official Timberwolf A miniature. I did.
Stop with the A. They won't give you the A. Every time you ask for the A, they reset the clock.
And I've seen that they have an official model, like the artwork. The artwork is out there. They have made a mini for it. I know that they have. Saw it for pictures from one of the cons on Facebook or something like that. I have seen it,
and
but it's not a production. No. It's not a production model yet.
Yeah, because every time you ask, they say nope. Another 6 months.
Another 6 months.
All right.
I love this box set. I for what it is, I give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay. No, that's good.
9.5 maybe. 9.5 out of 10. 0.5
better trees next time.
I don't know how they would be able to make them better though. That's the problem.
Just strips like pieces of paper.
But that's the weak point of the train is the trees. Though they look great, they look fantastic. I've got a couple pictures from our match that I'll put up on the Discord so people can take a look at that. The mechs sadly are not painted yet, but everything else looks fantastic.
Okay.
The inclusion of the battlefield support, super great idea. Love that idea.
I'll have to try those out. I wonder if that'll be more of a staple for like competitive tournament play now.
Yeah, I can see putting them in tournaments. It's just another layer. I don't see anything wrong with that. I would rather they do that than add like the pilot cards, because they do come with pilot cards for all of the mechs. They've got the Alpha Strike cards and the pilot cards and the battlefield support deck. But Oblique Attacker is still broken.
They just refuse to admit they made a mistake. It's okay.
It's okay.
What about formation abilities? Do they push formation abilities in this?
They have that information at the back of the book. Like after you've played a couple scenarios, then they mention the formations, what the requirements are, the ideal roles, then what kind of bonus abilities. Some of those are just like what I consider super powerful. So like the Battle Star, the Battle Lance or the Battle Star, the bonus ability is this formation receives a number of uses of the lucky ability equal to 2 plus the starting number of mechs in this formation. So if it's a Lance, 6 times during the game, you get to re-roll your attack roll.
That's a lot.
It is 6 times. 7 if you're a Star. That's a lot.
That's too much.
That's a whole lot. Especially if you're playing it where it's an all or nothing type thing. If you only need a 5 or a 6 with your Timberwolf and you roll that 4 and you're like, nope, I'm re-rolling that one.
Game over, man.
Yeah, it's but don't knock it till you tried it. Play a few times with it and decide if that's something that you like.
Let us know if you like it or not.
That's right. The Alpha Strike box set lets you go from very basic, easy, simple rule missions up to very deep. It gives you all the tools that you need to decide how deep down the Alpha Strike rabbit hole you want to go. And it gives you all that information. Next steps for it, of course, would be getting the Alpha Strike Commanders Edition hardback rule set, because that adds in your infantry, your troop transports, your aerospace fighters, and all the other abilities that are associated with those. And then, of course, all of the miniatures that are out there are compatible with Classic and Alpha Strike. So, grab some battle armor, grab some infantry, grab some vehicles, and build your forces.
So if you got an Alpha Strike box set or were waiting until after Christmas, you can find those at Fortress Miniatures and Games. You can also pick up those battle armor for your dashers, combat vehicles for your Eridani light horse, and new mechs to make your force your own.
Any specific questions you've got about anything that I touched on?
No, I think that covers it all.
All right.
Well, that's enough reviewing the Alpha Strike box set. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back, see if anyone slid into Dustin's cockpit while we were gone.
Star Colonel Catherine, how do I grow up big and strong like you?
Well, Rystar, you must fight well and be honorable in your Sipco. But most importantly, you must remember to eat all of your Korinskios. They are packed full of protein and power in every bite to make sure that you grow up to be the best warrior.
I want to be the best, just like the Great Father when I grow up and get my blood name.
Indeed, Korinskios. They are clantastic!
So before we do our podcast and BattleTech year in review, we are doing a rule in review this year. All of this came about because I found in my looking through BattleTech history was a quote from the Battle Mech manual input on the BattleTech forums, where Randall Bills actually posted essentially asking the community for help compiling the new Battle Mech manual back in 2016. And it's one key part of it is, but now we'd like to hear from you. If you were leading this development, what rules would you want to see included from tactical operations or strategic operations or beyond? What rules would you absolutely not want to see? And I thought, you know what? We can change things. We can build Battle Mech Manual 2, or maybe Total Warfare 2. That might be a better way to say it. Today, we have the esteemed guest of the show and unfortunate college friend of Denham himself. We have Dan interviewing for the Dustin hot seat this week.
I've got to say, Josh, your application for the new mech warrior on the team, the first question should not be, does your name begin with a D? It just shouldn't.
Look, I don't make the rules. HR makes the rules. Dan, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you, gentlemen. Doing great. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Is that a thing people say? Probably not. Probably not. But yeah, love the podcast.
Oh, thank you. So you are the quote Dan from the episode 13 Dan's Sheets from Pimp My Mech, all the scribbles and pieces of paper.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, any mech that I create, I always check that list first to make sure that I am actually building an efficient chassis. So it has definitely been put through its paces.
We don't want to talk about how old that list is.
It is older than many of our listeners, I promise.
So when you say a list, it's like Moses' 2 stone tablets that came down from the battle droids.
We wish rocks had been invented.
All right. So we all know Denham's history with the game, but what is Dan the Man's history with the BattleTech universe?
Yeah. So I would say my history is not very typical. It goes back originally to a video game system, I guess I'll call it. There was this BattleTech platform that was part of this Virtual Worlds VR center in the very, very early days of VR. And it was pretty funny. It was amazing for what it was at the time, but they had these intro videos for it. One of them had Judge Reinhold in it. And
they had like Belushi in it too, didn't they?
Yes.
I feel like I've seen this. Like I've seen clips of the John Belushi BattleTech.
I think it was Jim Belushi.
Oh, sorry. One of the Belushis.
Yes. Yeah.
One of them. I'm not sure.
The one that's still alive. Yes.
Right.
But yeah, so I played quite a bit of the BattleTech simulator there. And my first year of college, I trying to remember, I randomly stumbled upon some flyer or something for a BattleTech group that gets together. And sadly, I can't say that Denham introduced me to BattleTech exactly, because I was technically already playing BattleTech by the time I met him. But if I'm remembering it right, and Denham might chime in to dust off my memories a little bit here, but I was at this BattleTech get-together, and Denham and I were both playing games separately. And I think we were both so frustrated and dissatisfied with the groups that we were playing with that we decided to break from both and start our own game, if I'm remembering that right, Denham.
Yeah, what I remember is there was like a battalion on battalion classic. I mean, it wasn't classic back then, it was just BattleTech. A lot of 30-25 battalion on battalion. And so it was a good 45-50 minutes between turns. And so we were just standing around there, and this guy who was in the room also standing around. We were kind of chatting. And then I believe you said, "Hey, I've got some stuff here. Do you have anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've got these books and these maps." And we're like,
for the record, the stuff was BattleTech paraphernalia.
Yeah, that's true. True. Some BattleTech stuff. And then we decided to just go to an empty room and start up our own game. And it was way more fun. Yeah, and I think we ended up doing that like once a week forever.
I'm pretty sure I saw this same movie on the Hallmark Channel.
Yes. There's so many BattleTech Hallmark movies.
The BattleTech Muse and Mush that was going on, where we would go in there after dinner and we're like, okay, we're just gonna check on our stuff for like 10 minutes, and it would come out as the sun was rising.
Yeah,
like, crap.
You'd hear the birds chirping as we left the computer lab.
We just walked straight to our first class.
Oh God,
it was bad.
It
was so bad.
Decisions were made, but yeah, that was basically how I was introduced to the BattleTech board game. Was in college. Just kind of kept, expanding on it and learning more about the game. And I'd say I got very into the designing mechs part of the game, and became a bit of a shameless min-maxer, I'll admit.
Shamelessly.
Yeah, shameless. But I did enjoy, trying to see what I could do with mechs and kind of make them as efficient as possible is really what I got into.
Okay. No, I mean, I know Denham is, I want to say, like, at his core, like, he doesn't realize he's doing the efficiency drills, but there are two kinds of BattleTech players. The efficiency is the goal of the game, and the other half of the players are the story and the narratives is the core of the game.
Yeah, I think Denham and I both are in the same camp of playing to win, but Denham is a great storyteller too, I gotta say. So
that's right. You were in my very first RPG, the Mechwarrior RPG I ever ran. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, I remember it well, sir.
That's right.
There was a lot that happened. Not all of it was good.
Let's save that one for an After Dark episode.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
So out of all of your BattleTech history, do you have any like favorite parts that like keep you coming back or keep you staying in the universe?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if there's any specific part of BattleTech that really keeps me engaged, but I think just the interesting things that happen when you throw together enough random elements. And, just some of those memorable cinematic moments that can happen where, no one involved really predicted that outcome is kind of what I live for, I guess, is having those fun things that we can all like laugh and tell stories about months and years later. And so I think that's what I love about BattleTech is just the memories and stories that come out of it.
It's a story generation game.
Yeah. At the end of the day, with all of my talk of, being efficient and wanting to win, I think at the end, it's the stories that remain that matter.
No, that's excellent. I love that. Unfortunately, to turn that, heartwarming story to, on the other hand, you're here today, not as much to interview for the Dustin's hot seat, because that seat is too sticky and needs to be, thrown into the fusion reactor.
Oh boy.
You're here today because we wanted someone to play the everyman that wasn't us for our hypothetical, if we were to restart the rules and kind of redesign the game from the ground up. What would we take that already exists in the current edition of BattleTech? What would we, go back to like the previous original edition, and what would we change completely? Because
right. So we're talking about like beyond just errata, beyond, some tweaks.
This is tear down the house and build a new one. Would you keep the fireplace mantle because you like that, or would you build it all again and not even have the fireplace kind of thing?
Oh, we're going all electric, yeah.
But yes, so like I said, you're here in the place of the everyman, or every Dan, I should say.
Absolutely.
You could say there's a little Dan in all of us right now.
You could say that, but I don't know if it'd be a good idea.
Hey, it was college. I was young. I needed the money.
Oh, God. Shh, Denham.
All right. So Dan and I have played for a long time.
Long time?
A long time. A long time.
How long time are we talking?
When did we?
Don't give me a year. Give me a historical figure in a world war.
Like a total number of years.
Who was president then, Dan? Was it Reagan? No.
No.
I know, I'm thinking.
Jefferson, maybe? No.
It was one of the Bushes.
It was a Bushy president.
Yeah.
But yeah, the number of years, I'm trying to think of how to put that into context in the BattleTech world. It would probably be quite a number of BattleTech wars, I would say.
All right, so let's start the foundation of our lovely BattleTech Bible rule set. What are we specifically breaking down in the core rules section? First, you could argue that everything in the book is core rules, because like Battle Mech Manual, there's only a few optional rules.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Everything in the Battle Mech Manual is core rules. I would say we're not specifically going after like the alternate the TAC ops or anything like that.
No.
So Total Warfare, Battle Mech Manual, stuff like that, like the main core of it. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted Dan on here is because he and I think about the game differently. I tend to look at BattleTech like I take the rules as an artificial set of constraints, and I learn those rules and turn it into a puzzle game. So when I try to win, I try and come up with plots and plans and strategies that fit within those constraints. So I'm a very inside the box thinker when it comes to BattleTech. Therefore, I don't think about how to change the rules. I think about how to change my tactics. Dan, on the other hand, since day one, I would say, was always but wouldn't it make more sense if we just changed this a little bit in this table? So I knew immediately when we were looking at this episode, I need some backup. So Dan?
Yeah, I think I was definitely pushing house rules right out the gate and thinking of things of this is a great, amazing game system and I love it, but how can we make it better? And I think for me, a lot of it I think of in terms of like what is breaking the immersion for me. You know, like what feels clumsy or heavy-handed, where it's, you know, feeling more like a clunky set of rules that's not really telling the story in the way that makes sense to me. And like how to make things smoother and avoiding basically trying to turn things into smooth curves instead of clunky kind of steps that interrupt the flow of the game.
Oh, I know exactly what you're referring to right there. I'm not going to jump ahead yet, but I know exactly the stair-stepping kind of annoyances. Like you complain about it all the time. So
I do complain a lot. That's true.
Let's start at the top. Core rule changes. Anything specific that jumps out at you that you would definitely change. Right, like if you could only change one thing, what would you start with?
Well, I don't know if it's jumping ahead, but for me, I think, you know, one of the things that gets under my skin are some of the things like the punch table specifically, where I don't like the idea that when the upper half of the mech is being fired at, suddenly it becomes 6 times easier to hit the head. So to me, what I would feel would make what's causing a lot of those kinds of issues are the dice system, where I think a lot of it is trying to conform to the D6 dice that's causing a lot of issues like that, where it's really limiting what we can do in terms of probability.
So you're going to just start by throwing out the dice. Nice.
Yes. Take all the D6, just chuck them in the trash.
You promised me the one thing that they wouldn't try to do is change D6s. Like, I'm contractually obligated by Catalyst that we can't get rid of the D6 system.
No,
we can add more, but we can't get rid.
Or just one big D36.
Look, okay, everyone. I got to stop you. No one wants to admit that the D36 is the best dice.
Good Lord.
That it has
I would love it.
All the probabilities of a 2D6
it
on
does.
a single dice roll.
It does. I mean, yeah, you're going to have, what 6 sevens on there? How many sevens? A lot of sevens.
That's fine.
No, I know it's fine. I'm saying it would be awesome. It would be epic.
There's only 112 and there's only 1-2.
Yep. That's all you need. But so instead of D6s then, Dan, what would you do?
So I think there's some options. To me, the obvious one would be to switch to D10s. That gives us a lot more possibilities there, where we're not stuck on, one out of the faces resulting in a headshot on the punch table. With D10s, it gives us, let's say you just want to roll one die for the punch table. It's now a 1 in 10 chance instead of a 1 in 6. But to me, I think the most efficient way, but it does bring with it complexity, would be to do percentage dice. And, then you can really modify things at the level that you want.
All right. So I do, like, every D&D dice set I have comes with percentile dice, which I almost never use. So I could just take all of those and shove them in my BattleTech box and actually have a use for these things.
Yeah, just polish them off, and
like everybody's got some. How many percentile dice do you have, Josh?
I've got a decent amount. I use them for Dark Heresy, the RPG. So I need my D100, scale, and all of my solo RPGs use D100s for all of the narrative rolling, because they have giant charts with 100 things on them, and it's okay, I love that. I love a super granular narrative roll that I will never get, this combination of rolls ever again.
Because BattleTech needs bigger tables.
Absolutely.
But is that the thing? Is a D6 wrong for a core rule or more for a narrative?
Well, I see what he's saying about it being granular. Like it gives it's smoothing out that curve. Because right now with 2D6, you only have 36 possibilities. So it's a stair step. Whereas, nobody else can see what I'm doing on the camera. But it makes sense.
You're doing curvy motions with your hands.
That's
Stop,
right.
Please.
But percentile would smooth that out a lot.
Yeah, I get it. It gives you more options, more possibilities, but it does definitely make some crazy tables. But even still, say there's 6 different possibilities on the punch table. You could still have each result, each possibility as being a range, and so it's not really going to make the table any larger itself. It's just
true, but the range is different. All right,
the range is going to be different instead of just.
So it's not all of them are 1 in 6 chance. It's you can tweak it, is what you're saying, so that the center torso is bigger, so it's got a bigger percentile range, even though it's only 1 of 6 possible options.
Exactly. Maybe the center torso is a little easier to hit than the left or right torso or the arms.
And that table would accurately portray that. God, makes sense. I hate it.
Yeah, but that's accuracy. I think is what I would like to see is, and that would get us a lot of mileage towards that.
Every mech has its own unique hit table, and you have to.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on that. That sounds. Tell me more, Josh. Tell me more about that. What do you have in mind?
No. I promised everyone I would get my D36 plug, and that was it.
What would the Jenner hit table look like?
50%
the right
torso, 50% leg.
No, well, for the punch table, it would be like 80% torso, and then the arms would be probably a smaller chance than the head.
No, there'd be no chance to hit the head because it's too low. It's too low. Every punch just goes right over it. It's kicking only.
The head would be on the kick table for sure.
It's called the knee table now. BattleTech.
Perfect. The knee table.
But there are multiple, I don't want to say homebrew, but there are multiple side versions of people's BattleTech that they've modified. What is it? The Destiny system from Death from Above and Guerrilla Games use a D10 or other D system. So it is not unheard of to have a non-D6 roll in BattleTech, whether it be just for 2 hit or for the whole thing.
But some of them just use a standard D12, and that's just wrong. That's just wrong.
People do that?
More
Yes,
clicky
on
clacks
purpose?
better.
On purpose, yeah. And they're like, oh, it's basically the same odds. No. It's not. Send all your hate mail to
Yeah. Why did we save this episode for the end of the year?
It's the beginning of the year, Josh.
I'm going to try to get it out into the year.
What? I applaud that. Okay, well, the percentile die and its bell curviness. That actually reminds me. I know we're going to jump around a little bit. That reminds me of the one thing I know that bothers you. That kind of makes sense to me, but it's definitely part of the puzzle game that I play that you're not playing. Is movement modifiers like TMMs, where you get a bonus once you move at 3, 5, 7, 10. Like you have to hit those tiers. If you move 4 or 5, it's the same TMM, and you don't get that bonus until you move up a little bit. And I know that drives you crazy.
It does, yeah. And I think that is the grognard versus non-grognard kind of factor that you're talking about. Where I think you love like flexing those, trying to take advantage of those types of inefficiencies within the game engine to work to your advantage.
Well, yeah, I mean, it affects like your mech design, because you're not gonna favor a mech that jumps 6 over one that jumps 5 or 7, because 6 is wasted in quotes, because there's no extra bonus to jumping 6, where
Right.
the bonuses are when you hit 5 and 7.
So, like, every hex you move, you get an extra 5% to your defense dice, hypothetical, weird magic, don't hit me dice roll. And it's like, okay, if you move 10 hexes, you get 10 times 5, and that's 50% to your defense modifier. And then
Right, but if you move 9 hexes, then it's
45.
It's appropriately scaled.
Yeah. I think it's about keeping things scaled to the right degree where you're not hitting these weird staggered steps where all of a sudden, yes, I've graduated to the next level, so I'm getting this bonus where I'm now harder to hit. I think it would kind of get people more thinking about positioning themselves more on the battlefield more than trying to hit those gates, for their modifiers, where you're just getting modifiers all along.
It would definitely change the way that I would look at the map.
Yeah. And I don't think that would be a bad thing, it would definitely be change how you're thinking, and that might be uncomfortable for sure, but I would like to be able to shift the focus to more battlefield positioning than hitting those targets.
this is some campaign for North Africa stuff right now. Like, next thing you know, I'm going to be like, all right, how much coolant was in your mech? I mean, I like it. I like thinking about these, because these I had not ever thought to, discreetly break up the movement to defense, and I don't think you could do that as well on a D6 system. Like, I will admit that, or you just add more D6s.
Yeah. Step 1 to most of these are changing to percentile die.
Yeah, I feel percentile die would be more elegant than, say, 66s.
Now, one of the Mechwarrior RPGs, I think it was the second version, did introduce D10s and percentiles into it, but then it got phased out again. So I saw that happen, and I'm like, are they listening to Dan again? Is this the Piranha all over again?
Yes, the Piranha.
Never forget Clan Jelly Donut.
But no, I don't think that would be an issue. I think if you were to switch, I think that would be very interesting to do, almost like a margin of, I don't want to say margin of failure, but like a margin of effort. Like, the more you're doing something, the more you're awarded. It's not discrete steps.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So moving at 7, 8, and 9, there is no benefit to moving 8 or 9. There just isn't. Period.
But on the tabletop, thankfully, on classic maps, there are a lot of things where rarely will you have the perfect open field run across with no turning, no bushes or woods or rocks or whatever. Like,
but people like me analyze the maps, and we map out exactly how we're going to go. So
you dream about these maps.
It's crazy.
Unless you've got a mech that jumps 10.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
Jumping's wrong. What is it? What would jumping be? 7% per hex? Now he's got to think. He's like, is that enough? If 5% was a walk? No, because there'd be no difference between walk or run. There'd just be
movement. Exactly.
Yeah.
How far do you move? It doesn't matter if you're walking or running. No, I'm the one who's going for the old school rules. I haven't had any problems.
You're turning.
One of my problems was a locust versus a battle master. All right, a battle master running can only move 6, but a locust walking can go 8. Why is that easier to shoot from than a battle master is at running? Because the locust is actually moving a lot faster. It's still going up and down. Like there's no this arbitrary.
The weapons are calibrated for the walking speed of a locust, sir. You should know this. You should know this.
It just has better shock absorption because it's a lighter chassis.
The reticule is bouncing around, and then it finally does that. Pings, and you just got to hit it. Then the battle master is moving around. He's fighting it. That's why. But
arbitrary walking and running doesn't make any sense.
I can't do any more percentage dice. We gotta move on. We gotta move on.
Okay.
All right, Denham. What's the next thing on the BattleTech rules we're crucifying?
Okay. Well, let's see. All right, so let's get away from the whole D10 everything because obviously you believe that those are superior, and you're starting to infect Josh. So I need to pull us away from that now.
No. My problem is I go the opposite direction. Cool, it's a D36, and we've combined. Oh, you want to roll less dice? Okay, then you get one big hunky D36 dice with every probability on it.
There's a 0% chance I would be able to read the numbers on that die.
It's really big. It's like a boggle.
It's a big die.
You don't need a magnifying glass once you roll that baby to.
They're Bluetooth. They tell you what's on top.
That's kind of gross. But kind of cool. Your watch just tells you what it rolled.
Yeah.
You, Dan, have probably designed more mechs than any person I know.
Really?
Which is really, yeah. I don't know that many people. People are gross.
Yeah, maybe you need to meet more people.
I remember you having some very interesting views on how mech design and construction could be changed, and this was one of my favorite conversations we had while driving from Chicago to North Carolina one year. And I believe that was the crit spaces scaled by tonnage idea that you had. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I think I always struggled with the idea that in the BattleTech universe, for whatever reason, the larger the mech, the more it struggled to find space for weapons and equipment. So for some odd reason, very tiny mechs had plenty of space to cram in as many lasers and weapons that it could fit tonnage-wise, but the larger mechs, for whatever reason, had no room for them. So my thinking was that the number of crit spaces in a mech should be scaled towards the mech tonnage. And of course, this would bring with it some inherent challenges where there would basically be different mech sheets based on mech tonnage. So that would bring some pain with it, for sure.
I don't know. You could glance across the table and more easily tell what the other person is fielding.
That's true. Yeah. If you see this laundry list of crits in their arm, there's obviously going to be a bigger mech. But the idea basically is the current number of crits in a mech on the mech sheet there would represent a 50-ton mech. So,
sorry, so are you saying that not by class, like not by light, medium, heavy, and assault, but literally by tonnage? Like the crits are based on the tonnage itself, not by the class?
That would probably be something up for debate. I think it either way could be beneficial, depending on how granular you want to get with it. But probably by class would be more pleasant to deal with. But ideally, you'd have a 100-ton mech would have twice as many crit spaces as a 50-ton mech, in theory. And then a 25-ton mech would have half of what a 50-ton mech would have.
This is where I understand what you're saying, but I also know that you don't need a big like suspension on a small car. You need a big suspension on a big car. And I feel like that's somewhat abstracted in the sheets. Like things are smaller, so you have the total percentage of crit space never changes.
But this would make it so that a Hollander would be an impossibility. Because something that light just doesn't have the space to mount a weapon that large.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, Josh, it'd be like the difference between like a box truck and a semi truck. You know, like there's scalability there, so I would like to see larger capacity to go along with it. But yeah, I do get what you're saying with there's certain implied mechanics there that aren't going to be detailed in a mech sheet that would eat up some of the space.
Yeah, like there are definitely some mechs where like, yeah, this hand actuator is huge. Why is it the same hand actuator size throughout all of BattleTech? And I'm like, well, it's scaled. Like this sheet is actually the piece of paper is twice as big for the big mech as it is the small mech, and it has more armor blips. What? You don't like?
Careful, you're going to start telling me that like engines should be different sizes based on their engine rating. Like a tiny engine should only take up a tiny space in the cockpit.
Look, I don't know anything about your construction rules, sir. I am a user. I'm a dumb mech jock. All I know how to do is run fast, eat ship, and cash in C-bills.
So what you're saying, Denham, is in the real world that engines come in different sizes? That's crazy.
Yeah, you got engine, you got XL engine, so they're bigger.
Yeah. That's what XL stands for, right?
It's bigger, right?
Yeah.
I wear an extra large shirt, so right? XL engine is extra large.
It is not.
No.
But no, I understand what you're saying to change the current construction rules, but I do think I don't want to say that's not a rules thing. That's like you'd have to reissue every sheet for that.
But remember, this is not a revision of BattleTech rules. This is BattleTech 2.0, so it's a whole new system. Therefore, you could do this from the ground up.
Yeah. So it'll be all new mechs.
I think you would get a lot of pushback on that because, like,
they can still buy classic BattleTech.
No. But I'm saying, like, this whole episode is going to have pushback. What am I talking about? But for, like the Hollander, you'd have to like design like this is a light mech Gauss rifle, which has less crits, and
there are light Gauss rifles now.
But the Hollander's Gauss rifle would have to be the Hollander class light Gauss rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it is something that I have thought about, Josh, like with, well, you know, if we're scaling up and, you know, having more crits available for an assault mech, doesn't that mean like the actuators are also taking up twice as many crits? Because, you know,
you got twice as much Maimer in that heavy mech than you do a light mech.
Right.
25-ton mech? Oh, yeah, that's like 100 feet of Maimer, like, control cable. Go to a 50-ton, that's like a mile of control cable.
Unless it's like the Ryokin with its little tiny hands. So
yeah, you got like one pull wire. Like it's like a tendon. Yeah. It's like a crab. Like if you ever pulled the tendon on a crab claw, like that's all it is. Yeah. One ribbon. Next thing you're going to tell me is like change the tonnage of mechs to be more realistic and real world. Like Atlas is a 359-ton machine.
I do think that the very first mech shouldn't have been like the heaviest they could make.
No, the only way to go is down. No one's ever done that before.
Yeah, shouldn't the first mech have been like a 10-ton mech? Or
yeah, it should be like a proto mech.
Bro, don't you even start. Why am I doing this episode?
Okay, so the crit spaces being scaled by tonnage leads us into the whole sizes of mechs then. So should they be different sizes?
Could you elaborate that a little bit?
Yeah, so like pictures of a locust. Mechs in the books, in the lore, which I'm fond of, it says that a mech is between 7 and 16 meters tall. Well, 7 sounds like a level 1 building, and a 16 sounds like over a level 2 building. So, but all mechs are level 2, all of them, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that that's something that could benefit from some tweaking where, you know, maybe light mech is just considered one level high, and we have mediums and heavies that would be in there with just 2 levels high, and then you could have assaults that are 3 levels high, and you'd have that, scale of height that we would expect to see with mechs.
What if I have like a really low to the ground assault mech, like some of the quads that have just stumpy little legs? Like they're not 3 levels high. Don't tell me they're as tall as that building when they can walk through tunnels. Like they are 1 level high and they're just wide. They take up a lot more space horizontally.
And Josh, I believe you and I both have an official Catalyst mech that is 3 levels high.
We do.
Yeah,
and that's actually 3 levels high comparatively.
The tripod super heavies.
Mm-hmm. What are you telling me? Those are 4 level highs, Dan?
4.5. 4.5 levels.
Oh, so they get some partial cover there.
Need a medium-sized mountain to get partial cover.
Man, that would change light, scouting with light mechs so much because they could actually use the level 1 stuff as total cover and actually be able to get in position without worrying about being destroyed en route.
Denham's becoming infected.
Don't. It's been a long time since I've thought about this stuff.
It's been a long time since he's been infected. But the other challenge too with if you have level 1 light mechs is they wouldn't be able to get partial cover, and if they're scouting, they wouldn't be able to hide behind a level 1 hill and still have line of sight to the enemy. If we're trying to do tag or something of that nature.
I just have to have one of the dashers who's got the arms that go up, and he's got the tag laser on its hand, and it just
the hands peeking up over the building.
Yeah.
Have all its sensors on its hands. It'll be great.
That's what I'd do. Yeah.
The only thing I think of is some like ECM blackout, and you can't communicate with the mech, and you're like, Dasher, or how are we doing over there? And just like the arm comes up, and it's just thumbs up above the thing. You can't see anything else. Goes back down. It's like, all right, Dasher's good.
Still there. He's still there.
But no, I would be more okay with that because I think that would introduce something that the game wants to. Like, I think it's there. It's underneath the hood with all of the different levels of buildings and terrain and woods that mechs could be multiple levels. Like, there would be more granularity there, even if it was just light and medium or level 1 and heavy and assault or level 2. Like that would be able to be integrated easily. And then if you were revising, you could like, all right, this one is either just have a defensive percentage, like this mech is inherently takes up this percentage of a hit box, so it gets less height and narrowness, stuff like that.
Yeah, it does bring some interesting questions. Like if you're an assault mech and you're behind a level 1 building, what happens? If you're behind a level 2, what happens? So I think the idea of partial cover would have to be more flexible for sure. There'd be different types of partial cover.
What's a chonky mech that we both love, Denham? That would be both screwed and benefit from a revised level balance. You don't have any chonky boys that you
I mean like the Highlander I think of, but I don't know if you love the Highlander.
Highlander's okay. I enjoy a Highlander occasionally.
I think it would be affected by that, probably in a bad way.
I was thinking like the Urban Mech Imp Flashman, evolution.
Oh,
mech. Like, all right, these are all like 2 levels, 3 levels high, and they also are, level 2 horizontal.
That would be what, 60 meters? No. No levels. Yeah, it would be bad.
The Annihilator, 4 levels tall, 2 levels wide.
Oh man, he is a bit fat. I'm sorry, big boned.
There you go. Big armored, big endowed.
All right, so if we're talking about different sizes, then how about like physical attacks or taking damage? Any changes to those rules?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little more realism that we could bring into the physical combat phase. And I've heard you talk about this a number of times on the podcast where you can have a bunch of locusts swarm an assault mech, and just have them kick away, and he's rolling PSRs left and right.
Yep, it's one of my favorite tactics, and it is kind of cheesy / mean, but it is a viable tactic.
But I think it could be valuable to take another look at the physical attacks and kind of scale that based on the size of the mech. So like if you're kicking another mech, maybe you only force a PSR on a mech that's your own weight class or lower. So a light mech is only going to force a PSR on another light mech. But if it's kicking something heavier, then it's not going to be able to make that happen.
It still does damage. It just doesn't knock him over.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to get that opportunity to knock him down.
Because, when a locust kicks, it only does 4 points of damage, whereas a battle master does 17 points of damage.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different.
Right.
I mean, we already have a slight historical precedence for this, which is the weight class modified PSR rules, where assault mechs have an easier time standing still because they've got more mass, and mass is harder to move with less mass and less force.
Oh, you're taking real physics and putting it into this game?
What?
That's a bad idea. The whole jump ship, drop ship thing, it's just the whole thing's gonna fall apart, man. Don't do it.
Using one of my degrees for actual use? No, never.
Don't do it.
I would never do that. So there is precedence for that, and I do like the idea of a light, like if you kick a locust, which is 50% leg, it goes
just
down
gonna fly.
really easy.
It actually keeps going. It's a football.
And if a locust kicks an atlas, which is still roughly, maybe 40% legs divided, total leggage is 40%. Well, comparatively, that's like 5% kicking, 50%. No, you do not get your PSR, sir. I mean, I will go one more radical than you, and I say get rid of PSRs for damage and kicks. Because I'm trying to speed up the game. And while PSRs are fun, and I think everyone enjoys some of them, I think the magic 20% or 20 damage to hit, I think that's an arbitrary number. Like, who picked 20 damage? Someone 30 years ago picked 20 damage.
Yeah, that came out when there were only 16 mechs and I think 9 different weapons, period.
Yeah.
So 20 points of damage was actually hard to do.
Yeah, I would love to do the math and statistics on all right, 20 damage back in the day, original 16 was hitting the...
Oh, inflation. We got to do damage inflation.
Oh, yes. It's 2022. I want some adjusted damage numbers.
Now, I know you had some ideas about that as well, Dan, and I think a lot of those actually ended up in the the Tactical Operations Advanced Rules book. Maybe not 100%, but close enough where it sounds like they were listening.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it makes sense to scale that 20 damage, because 20 damage to a locust versus 20 damage to an atlas are going to be wildly different things in terms of overall impact to the mech.
Yeah. 20 points could be a third of the entire armor of a locust,
right?
Like a third of it. Whereas for a battle master, it's like half a percent. Yeah,
right. So I think going along those lines, it would make sense to scale them, something more accurate to the overall tonnage of the mech, and kind of along the same lines of my thinking with the critical spaces, where it could be effective to have the damage needed for a PCR to PSR.
Someone a biologist here.
The damage needed for a PSR would be scaled to the overall tonnage of the mech. So I think that could be something that could be valuable.
Yeah, because that would then give taking light mechs is good, but not OP. Like taking a dasher that's just going to run and get behind something and kick it isn't going to be as effective as taking a combat purpose mech.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Then you'd have to do a little more thinking of, what what am I going to expose this mech to? Because it's going to be way more susceptible to having to deal with PSRs versus something more durable.
Yeah, no, I like that.
But we were discussing floating crits, and floating crits is something else that I think could benefit from some more usage, particularly on the punch and kick tables where there's no possibility of a possible floating crit there. So, it is nice when you have that capability of getting a critical hit, even though you haven't punctured the armor on a mech, and it would be nice to see that on the punch and kick tables as well.
What is it? That one weapon, the
Lance.
No, not the lance.
What? It's not the lance? Don't
Not
you
the
give
one
me
I'm
no
thinking of.
like retractable blade stuff.
That's the one. The retractable blades. If you punch
I
someone
knew
with
it.
that,
Yes.
yeah, if you punch someone with that, you get a possible crit on the punch table. Do talons give you a possible crit
No.
on the kick table? No. Ah,
Just more damage.
they're just on the Turkina for like a 30-point kick.
Yeah, you like it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I love floating crits. I had one person at my last table last week because your rule in the store is it has to be unanimous at the table if it's used.
Correct. Yeah.
And
I don't mind if it's used, but it has to be unanimous.
Yeah, I love that rule. I don't know why. I feel like it brings a little something extra to the storytelling where just out of nowhere, there's a random crit somewhere on your mech.
Yeah, it's not just in the center torso.
Right. Yeah.
But this person actually was like, no. And I was like, all right, cool. Then I'm hitting your engine twice. And the player, this wasn't the player, but it was the table. And he was like,
Right.
I don't want to play it. And I was like, cool, you've screwed over this player because now his mech is crippled rather than just a shoulder and maybe a hand actuator.
Right.
I was like, no, floating crits I think are better because that removes. And that's why Dustin couldn't be here today because we were going to insult the Golden BB.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I heard him crying in the bathroom.
No, that's the she shed, sir. Get it right.
Oh.
And that's something I don't like. How I accept that through mark crits is something mechanically, but if it has to happen, I don't want it to always hit the quote most protected part of the mech.
Right. But the fact that it is an optional rule in the Battle Mech manual does mean that a lot of people play with it enough that it might as well be canon.
Yeah.
Yep. I like it. I do.
What would be your main thoughts on if someone else was trying to do either a homebrew revision in their local game area? What would be your advice or start here, don't do this, have fun with it, kids?
I think at the end of the day, you have to think about what makes the game fun for you and the people that you play with. And, if there's parts of the game that feel awkward and are painful to deal with and you want to simplify them, then that's the way to go for you. But if there's other ones that you feel need more detail and more realism, and you have the patience to maybe, work off of tables or other components that are going to be a little more complex, then you roll with it. But you got to do what works best for you and your group.
If everyone loves the construction rules, don't mess with the construction rules. So if your only problem is floating crits or the 2d6 dice system, then feel free to change that.
Yeah, totally. Dan actually wrote up the tables for the D10 percentiles. So we had the tables. It frightens me to think of what we could have done if we had iPads and laptops back then when we were doing this and actually had time and energy.
You mean slide rules and, rocks?
Well, because we were in college, so we had nothing but free time, right? I mean,
I can't imagine the college parties you two had.
Oh man, I think we played Axis and Allies.
Oh, Axis and Allies.
Yeah, every semester we'd play Axis and Allies in the basement. So that's the kind of college parties we had.
Yeah, that's how wild it got.
Shame. Anything else you can think of, Denham? Is there anything you would change to whether to make the game simpler for people to get into it, or
Oh, they should have an easier, lighter version where the mech sheets are just a playing card size.
Oh no!
And all the damage is turned down
yeah.
to divide by 10. Add up all the weapons, divide by 10. and that's the total damage you can do, and you just roll one dice to see if you do all that damage.
Right. That would really help a lot. I think that would just be a better game.
No.
Make all the damage miss or all the damage hits.
Yeah.
Pure realism.
No, I like the core game the way it is because that's what I know, and that makes me happy. My OCD brain is happy with this.
I think my big takeaway is Dan is a born RPG player, and that is the only thing that he wants out of a good game like this, a more like sim style game where he wants the full granularity is where the story is built.
Well, it's got to make sense to Dan, in my opinion. Like
at that point, he's rolling for every missile in the LRM volley.
Yes. Oh, that's brilliant. 20 LRMs, you roll 20 times.
Yeah, we're already doing it for LB clusters. So, why not LRM 20? Just bring out that Doom box, shake it up.
Yeah, you completely eliminate the entire missile table and you just roll 20 times. Perfect. Yeah. Done. Nailed it.
Oh, I'm sold. That's it. Giving up this game.
I mean, we had, one person on the Discord say they want rack rotary autocannon LBXs. And I was like, bro, you just like rolling dice because that's all you're going to be doing. Rolling dice all night long.
Like an auto shotgun. That's all that is.
And everyone was like, sir, you get the same number of shots as like an LB-20.
Yeah, the epic amounts of dice rolling does take its toll on your play group for sure. So that is something not to be underestimated.
Yeah, that is true. Because I do know people who just bring one pair of dice and they just want to do all the rolls one at a time.
I mean, that's how the game's designed.
It makes my eye twitch when I see that.
But there's a better way.
Can't expect them to show up with a whole bag of loaded dice, right?
That's right. Those are expensive.
Right.
I load all my dice, sir. Load them all into my hands and then bless them to roll only 12s.
We shouldn't keep this just amongst ourselves. We should throw this out to the Discord and ask them, what kind of changes would you want? Or if not, why not?
Yeah.
Why is it perfect just the way it is?
Things are good, but they could be better. But no, Dan, I would like to thank you for coming on tonight, talking about what rules you would build from the ground up to kind of change BattleTech, to like give it a different flavor. I think that's the best way I could put it, maybe. Like keep it BattleTech, but different flavor.
You can always add a little spice to something, or I don't know. I guess for me, I like the idea of being able to reconstruct something and, adding a little, like you said, flavor, a little spice to it never hurts.
No. Now, is this sriracha? Is this like barbecue sauce? What would you call this?
Yeah.
What would you call a percentile die BattleTech?
You got my chocolate spider and my peanut butter urban mech. Ew.
I would not want to see what the defensive percentile die for a spider versus an urban mech would be.
Like it's a sweet chili.
Okay, sweet chili. The sweet chili sode. Anyone or anything you'd like to shout out, Dan? Or
thank you both for having me on board. I greatly appreciate it. It's always a fun time to chat with Denham about BattleTech, and it was great speaking with you, Josh. And may the Mechbay live long and conquer many battlefields.
Not at the rate we're going, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Hey, this is beginning of year 3 for us, man.
Oh, God, no.
That's like a year and 8 months longer than I thought we'd make it.
At 5 years,
that's epic.
I get my first hour of PTO I can use.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you again.
But thank you, Dan. All right, Mechwarriors. It's been a wild 2022. Check us out next time on the Mechbay podcast, where we crack Dustin out of dropship jail, give our BattleTech 2022 year in review, hobby roundup, and just what are our goals on 2023. Until next time, Happy New Year from the Mechbay podcast to you.